So it's okay. So Lisa and I were just talking about how some of the sentences are a little tricky. There, it reads sometimes like poetry, and that's because Helen Schuckman, the scribe who took this down, was quite poetic. She was influenced hugely by Shakespeare. She probably understood Shakespeare better than anybody, and and Shakespeare wrote in iambic pentameter, this this blank verse, and so much of the course, especially the workbook lessons and the latter part of the course, is comes through in blank verse, and so people will look at the punctuation and look at the way it's all put together, and and get upset or feel like it was written poorly because of that. But if you hear Ken Wapnick, who did a lot of the editing, she she would she was adamant about the the punctuation, the way it all came together. So anyway, just a little interesting aside. If you find yourself stumbling over some of the sentences, you got to put yourself back in the time of Shakespeare, and then it makes a little bit of sense. Okay, here we are at lesson number 57, and I'd like you to begin today lying on your back. If you don't have a bolster, hopefully you have one by now. If you don't have a bolster, then sit on it full length. So you're going to sit facing the wall in this case, sit right on the end with your legs out in front of you. Lie back on your back. This whole class will work fine if you don't have a full length bolster like this. And just have a moment here with your sacrum supported and your head perhaps a little bit less supported, depending on the length of your bolster. Knees bent, feet on the floor, arms by your sides. We'll open lesson 57 here with the first idea, the first review idea. I am not the victim of the world I see. Wow. As most of us think we are. How can I be the victim of a world that can be completely undone if I so choose? My chains are loosened. I can drop them off merely by desiring to do so. The prison door is open. I can leave simply by walking out. Nothing holds me in this world. Only my wish to stay keeps me a prisoner. I would give up my insane wishes and walk into the sunlight at last. Wow. Yeah, so, you know, it just makes me think of the allegory of the cave, the Plato, that you probably studied that in high school or somewhere along the way, where a prisoner in the cave, so that there are these prisoners in the cave and they're chained to the wall. So all they can see when they open their eyes is the cave wall. And in the allegory, one of the prisoners releases himself. He breaks free and he realizes he's in a cave, and he goes out and he sees the light and looks outside, and it's just blown away by the beauty and the light that is out there that he didn't know existed. And he comes running back in, telling everybody about what he had seen and how they can free themselves, but they want to kill him. They don't. Their thought system cannot entertain this idea. Probably a nod to the allegory. I would give up my insane wishes and walk into the sunlight at last. We have to realize that we are our own. We're the prisoner and we're the prison keeper. And if you consider the all-encompassing nature of the mind, we are also the prison. And we can undo it all. The power of forgiveness. Now, bring your arms out into a T shape. Yep. Palms up toward the ceiling, and extend your legs out one at a time. Yeah, and if this is awkward or painful on your low back, then just bend the knees back up. If you look carefully, it's an attainable, sustainable back bend. Number 2, I have invented the world I see. Before I read further, open your throat, head back a little bit, and slowly turn to the right. Let the left arm drop, let the left shoulder just kind of drop away. You want to be as passive as possible here. If the shape is too demanding passively, then make a little adjustment. I've invented the world I see. I made up the prison in which I see myself. All I need do is recognize this, and I am free. I have deluded myself into believing it is possible to imprison the Son of God. I was bitterly mistaken in this belief, which I no longer want. The Son of God must be forever free. He is as God created him, and not what I would make of him. He is where God would have him be, and not where I thought to hold him prisoner. You could just see how our thoughts of condemnation are always self-punishing. The moment a thought of conflict or prejudice or separation, the moment a thought like that, or even what has value or what doesn't have value here in the world, those kinds of thoughts are just immediately imprisoning. Jesus in the Bible said, "Judge not, lest ye be judged." Judge not, set yourself free. Just letting this whole shape be an expression of your absolute freedom, the inheritance that you're entitled to. It's just waiting to be received. Bring your head back to the center. And slowly letting the shoulders drop, letting the arms hang, slowly turn to the left. Just nice and easy. Nothing about the shape can feel painful. There can't be a single part that is capturing too much of your attention. Number 3, thankfully, there is another way of looking at the world. Since the purpose of the world is not the one I ascribe to it, there must be another way of looking at it. I see everything upside down, and my thoughts are the opposite of truth. I see the world as a prison for God's Son. It must be, then, that the world is really a place where he can be set free. I would look upon the world as it is and see it as a place where the Son of God finds his freedom. There is the repurposing of the world we see. The imprisonment goes away the moment we change our minds about the world, which from the ego's perspective, we've turned it into a jailhouse. And we think the way to escape it is to travel into space or take what somebody else has, seems to have. You can't escape the prison while you're in it. You got to see it differently. Bring your head back to the center. That's good. Now bend your knees, feet on the floor. Bring your arms back down by your sides and rest here just a second. And now your arms straight up toward the ceiling. Open your fingers some, extend the elbows, and slowly start to lower your arms overhead. See if you can keep them about shoulder width apart, but if they start to widen a little bit, that's okay. The goal, just like our spiritual practice, is to find the blockages to freedom and befriend them, change our mind about them, release them, hold them to the light. All different ways of saying the same thing. So the goal is not to touch the floor with your hands. That's the wrong goal. Find the blockage. Ask for love's help in letting it go. The letting go may be reflected in form or not. It always has to do with letting go in the mind, which is how we see differently, the process of forgiveness. All right. One at a time, extend your legs out. Just extend them out if it feels safe to you. You may need to raise your arms a little bit. And then reach through your legs some, reach through your arms a little bit. Let the belly drop. Invite the breath into your rib cage, all around the heart space. Relax your legs and slowly bring your arms back out to that T shape. It's kind of like the snow angel that we made in the snow as kids. You just slowly, in a way, open the wings. Let the elbows bend again. Come down where you can rest the arms. And the passive shapes go deep quickly. So we're very thoughtful about these transitions from active to passive. Make sure it's working for you here, and I'll read idea number 4. I could see peace instead of this. When I see the world as a place of freedom, I realize that it reflects the laws of God instead of the rules I made up for it to obey. We have societal rules, we have family rules, and we have our own personal rules and our own personal agenda, all of which make up the prison house, all of which come from the ego mind, all of which, as an ego, I am a part. I'm just going to read the paragraph again. When I see the world as a place of freedom, I realize that it reflects the laws of God instead of the rules I made up for it to obey. I will understand that peace, not war, abides in it. And I will perceive that peace also abides in the hearts of all who share this place with me. That's beautiful. I release myself from the chains that bind by seeing peace in all things. And slowly bring your arms on down by your sides. And bend your knees up, have your feet on the floor. And carefully roll onto one side, onto the floor. And pause a moment, support your head with your cushion or your bottom arm. Soak up your practice. I could see peace instead of this. It's another way of saying, I can choose again. Push yourself up, find a comfortable seat. Number 5, my mind is part of God's. I am very holy. My mind is part of God's. What else could I be but holy? As I share the peace of the world with my brothers, I begin to understand that this peace comes from deep within myself. It's the prayer of the heart. The world I look upon has taken on the light of my forgiveness and shines forgiveness back at me. In this light, I begin to see what my illusions about myself kept hidden. This is how we pull the veil back. I began to understand the holiness of all living things, including myself and their oneness with me. Yeah, here's the line that is that this is the line that describes the witness to the changes, the witness to the miracle, which is the change in mind that sees peace instead of this. So here's the line. The world I look upon has taken on the light of my forgiveness and shines forgiveness back at me. Bring your hands to your heart. Your hands at your heart together, a reflection of the love and light that is deep within me, you, and all things. Namaste. Yeah. Yes, it is by beauty. It is by beauty that all beautiful things are beautiful. That was Socrates. So beautiful. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Lisa.